Let's look at Mark chapter 10. Mark chapter 10, I want to read 7 verses to you this morning, starting in verse 46. It says, "Then they came to Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, 'Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me.' And many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, 'Son of David, have mercy on me.' And Jesus stopped and said, 'Call him.' And so they said to the blind man, 'Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you.' And throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and he came to Jesus. 'What do you want for me to do for you?' Jesus asked him. And the blind man said, 'Rabbi, I want to see. I want to see.' And 'Go,' said Jesus, 'your faith has healed you.' And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road." Amen. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. That's my message for you today. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. If you've been in church for any length of time whatsoever, I mean, even like 6 months to a year, chances are you would have heard this account. It is one of the most recognizable and famous accounts and one of his most famous miracles. And it's well known in all the Gospels. It's been a landmark account for Sunday school lessons and sermons and personal devotions and probably a dozen other applications. And this story or account, I know, I hate to say the word story, and I might flip-flop between the two this morning. When I say story, I always think fictional in my mind, but it's not fictional, it happened. So this account, it's recorded in 3 of the 4 Gospels. It's here in Mark chapter 10, but it's also in Matthew chapter 10 and in Luke chapter 18. And for the most part, the details are, for the most part, the same. There are a few variations. Matthew and Mark record Jesus leaving Jericho, and Luke says he's approaching Jericho. Some people mean that discrepancy and believe that's the case because there were possibly 2 Jerichos within close proximity to one another, an old, vintage, classic Jericho, and then a new Jericho. And some believe Jesus was leaving the old Jericho and traveling to the new, and that's the discrepancy. Matthew and Mark record Jesus leaving old Jericho. Luke records approaching the new. Luke records and Mark records a single blind man, where Matthew says there were 2 blind men. And Mark is the only gospel that will identify this man by name, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus. If you were to read all 3 accounts back to back to back, you may notice subtle differences in the account. But however, I hope what would stand out to you the most would be that all 3, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they record 2 things exactly the same way. The first is the disposition of Bartimaeus. He recognizes he needs God's mercy in his life. He recognizes it. He cries out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." He might not have the fundamental knowledge of what sin is and what it means for his life and what Jesus would mean for his life, but what he does know is that he needs God's mercy. And I think it's an irony, I do, that this blind Bartimaeus, he could see Jesus as the source. He could see Jesus clearly as the source for the mercy he needs. Though he's blind, he cries out because he can see, "Jesus, have mercy on me." The people of Israel, they knew that the Messiah would be coming. They knew he would be a descendant of David. And before Jesus dies on the cross, before he's resurrected, before Jesus ascended to heaven, and an event that's witnessed by hundreds of people, before all of that, in his physical blindness, he may not be able to literally see Jesus. Oh, but Bart, he could clearly see. He could clearly see. Look at your neighbor. Tell him, "Oh, Bart could see." Oh, Bart, he could see. He sees Jesus for who he is, his Messiah. And he knows what he needs in his life. And he walks in faith, and he sees by his faith. And it prompts Jesus to ask a question. And that's the second thing that all three accounts record the same way. All three, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, record Jesus as asking Bartimaeus, "What do you want me to do for you?" Yeah. Jesus doesn't just assume that Bartimaeus would want to see. He asks him. And he makes Bart express his full extent of his faith. Yeah. Jesus has him proclaim out loud in front of the 12 disciples, and it says a multitude. So anywhere from 40, 50, 75, 100 people, whatever would be defined as a multitude, he proclaims in front of them all, "Lord, I want to see." And it's in this request of Jesus that I want to focus on this morning, because you have been invited to ask God for anything. You have been. Matthew chapter 7, Jesus says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you. For everyone who asks, receive. The one who seeks, finds. And to the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Which of you, if your son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a snake? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask?" That's what we were just singing about like probably 20 minutes ago now. About 15, 20 minutes ago, we were just singing about that, brother. Oh, he is a good, good Father. He's perfect in all of his ways. And he has something for you if you would just ask for it. Jesus opened the door for us to ask anything. In John chapter 14, he says, "Very truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me and does the works I have been doing, they will do even greater things than these, because I'm going to the Father, and I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. And you may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." So this morning, my message is this. Let's take a cue from old Bart and ask Jesus to open our eyes to see. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. Lord, open my eyes to see not just the way things are, but the way things could be. Oh, Jesus, open my eyes to see not just what is obvious, but what is hidden. Oh, Jesus, open my eyes to see not just the way out of pain, but the purpose in the pain. Oh, Jesus, open my eyes to see not just the way to blessing, but the responsibility that comes with it. Lord, open my eyes to see the implications of what your lordship means in my life. Oh, is he king in your life? That means he has control of your life. Let me know and let me see what that means. Lord, open my eyes to see. I want to see purpose in the middle of my problems. I want to see my standing in you, even in the midst of pain. Lord, I want to see the potential of calmness even in this crazy season of chaos. Lord, I want to see. Lord, I want to see. I want to see the promise of hope in the midst of despair. Lord, I want to see you clearly. Lord, I want to see what you see. Lord, I want to see what you're doing. And here's the thing. When you cry out to Jesus, there's going to be some opposition that comes your way. Because that kind of mindset, it always brings in the opposition. Every time Bartimaeus cries out, "Have mercy on me," someone tried to shut him up and rebuke him. Oh, they'd say things like, "Jesus doesn't have time for you. He doesn't even see you. Why would he even care about you?" But it only made him shout all the louder, "Have mercy on me." And when Jesus does notice him, I love how the crowd instantly changes their tone. It's funny. It goes from shut up to cheer up. It goes from get down to get up. He's calling for you. And that's what the enemy does, man. He'll send in the opposition. He'll try to get you to see only what he wants you to see. And he'll try to distract you. And he'll try to discourage you. And I wonder how many times he'll come in whispering in his softest, gentlest, his nicest sounding voice, maybe even trying to get us to pray things like, Lord, get me out of this. And you fill in the blank with what this is. And it sounds like a great prayer to pray. It sounds like surrender. It sounds like casting your cares on Jesus, especially when you've been facing the debilitating opposition for any length of time. But perhaps Jesus, he's asking of us today more than just an auto response prayer. Lord, help me. Lord, get me out of this. Lord, remove me from this. Maybe today he's asking us to pray, Lord, let me see you in this. Oh, let me urge you today. Keep asking to see. Keep seeking to see. Keep knocking until you see. And when you do, it might not be as you expect. You might see the same things, but it might be different. It might be different. Let me show you 3 things that I just believe personally will be seen differently in your life when Jesus opens your eyes. First of all, when I'm able to see, my position looks different. My position looks different. It's so disheartening when you're stuck in a place you don't want to be. Oh, it's terrible. And I'm not talking about your emotional disposition or your financial hardship. I'm not talking about your relationship status right now or just a general season of life, whether it be parenthood, the working years, singlehood. I'm talking about a literal physical place that you do not want to be. There's some of you here today, you're in a place right now you'd give anything to get out of. For some of you, it's called Florida. You moved here expecting it to be Disney and beaches all day, every day. And it's not what you expected. It's not what you expected. The heat isn't what you expected. The culture isn't what you expected. The seasons aren't what you expected. The lack of color variance in nature beyond the default brown and green, it depresses you. Our state birds, the mosquito, it's an unbearable foe. The love bugs, they're coming soon, man. A couple weeks, man. It's like a light switch. May comes and they're here. The months of August and September, they're beyond overwhelming, and it's not because of the heat. You could deal with the heat, but those threats of hurricanes in August, September, into October, it does you in every single year. Man, it's great in the winter, but the rest of the year, Florida isn't worth it for you. Some of you, you're okay with Florida, but you can't stand Highlands County. Or you can't stand Avon Park. Some of you, you're okay with that, but it's that job you're in. That depressing, ugly building you got to go to every single day. Every single day. Scott, you work outside. I don't want to hear you say preaching. You spend 40 hours a week in dim lighting and fluorescent lighting. It may be your house that was in such a good place in a pinch. Now it's too big. Now it's too small. Now it's too ugly. You can't afford to update it. It might be too expensive for you. Maybe it's your position. It's whatever it is. It's this physical location. Right. It's in your life, and you don't want it in your life anymore. And you've been praying, Lord, I hate it here. I hate it here. Move me from this place. Move me from this place. But maybe now it's time to pray, oh, Jesus, I want to see. Right. When you see as Jesus wants you to see, the place that you've dreaded, the place that you've hated, the place that you've wanted nothing to do with. Jesus has a way of making it, that discontentment that you've had with it, feel more like providence, where his divine hand has been at work in your life, leading and guiding you to this point. And that place you'd give anything to get out of, it may begin to look more like home than what you'd ever expect. This isn't a new concept. I know you've heard this before. You'll probably hear it a dozen more times. But allow the Holy Spirit to remind you right now, you may feel stuck where you're at today. But Jesus wants you to see an assignment. Your position is your assignment, and he has positioned you. Yeah. He has positioned you. Which can be kind of funny because sometimes where you're at right now, he had nothing to do with in the beginning. Because he was never consulted. There was no prayers. There was no fasting. There was no counsel sought. You just thought that looked awesome to be there, and you jumped the gun. And it's all you. And you believe you're paying the price for it now. But the truth of it, and the truth of it is in his word, it still rings true today. He's making all things, even your rash, unwise, harsh decisions, work for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. Jesus, I want to see. I feel trapped. I feel stuck. Open my eyes to see that I'm really deployed right now. I'm really deployed. There's purpose where I'm at right now. There's meaning in where I'm at right now. There's strength and there's longevity where I'm at right now. There's contentment where I'm at right now. Lord, no matter how I feel about it, I want to make the most of it today. So like blind Bartimaeus, I'm going to get up and I'm going to follow you. And I'm going to start seeing this place as the place you've sent me for such a time as this. Because my eyes can see. And I see it differently now. I see it differently now. Secondly, this morning, when I'm able to see, my predicament feels different. My predicament feels different. Maybe you're here this morning and you can feel at home anywhere. It doesn't matter where you're at. If the AC is on, you're good. For you, it's the predicament you find yourself in right now. Your predicament is your family, your social status. Your predicament is your physical health. Your predicament is the financial outlook. That is your bank account. It's your emotional, relational, or physical state. And it goes so much deeper than the location you're in. This is the situations or circumstances that make up your life. Maybe you're a little older in age this morning. More mature. We'll go that way. And you're in your golden age, retirement years, you know. And this was supposed to be the greatest time of your life, but it's harder than you've ever expected. You didn't work for 40 years for inflation to deflate your entire savings. Maybe you're a little bit younger right now, your 20s, your 30s. You still recognize how free you are from the oppression of mandatory education. You still even recognize you're free from the bondage of that voluntary education you put yourself through for 4-6 years. But this predicament called work, it's shown you how much better school really was. Maybe parenting isn't filled with joy like you thought it would be. Maybe your marriage isn't fulfilling like everyone told you it would be. Maybe nothing in your life has gone according to plan. And there's only one word that describes the predicament that you are in today, and it's this: burden. Burden. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they record blind Bartimaeus, but the Gospel of John records another blind man. In John 9, Jesus meets him, and the disciples ask Jesus when they meet him, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he has had to live like this? And John 9 records that the man was born blind, so I always find that pretty brazen and insensitive to insinuate that the future sin of this guy and this innocent baby would result in a lifelong disability. But I love Jesus' response, because when they say, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind, Jesus says neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. You may see burden this morning. Jesus is wanting you to see his power at work. Your predicament today, it's so that God's power will be on display in you and through you. Your predicament today is so that God's power would be made perfect in weakness. Oh, Jesus, I want to see this morning. Oh, Jesus, I need to see this morning. This predicament that I am in. All that I see pain, and I see suffering, and I see death, and I see despair, but I know that you see something different. I know that you see purpose, Jesus. I know that you see a plan that's coming together. I know that you see an opportunity that needs to be taken a hold of and grabbed a hold of. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. On Friday night, Pastor Christy and I, we spent some time with a couple in our church. And while we were hanging out, the guy was telling me about a predicament that he faced 20 so years ago. He and his wife, they were expecting a child, and there were complications, serious complications in the pregnancy. And it was a 50-50 chance that the baby would survive. Baby was supposed to be born at Tampa General Hospital, and last minute that fell through. And I wound up in Shands in Gainesville, Sister Lydia. That's where they wound up, Shands in Gainesville. And it was there that a premier doctor whose specialty was that complication was able to take charge and deliver that baby. And it all worked out. The baby survived, and now she's an adult, and he was telling me about her. But he told me about an event that happened about 7 years later after that. And he drives truck, and he was driving a truck for living at that particular day, and he wound up in a place that he didn't expect to be at. And he wound up seeing a person that he knew, but he didn't expect to see them. But it was all God. It was all God. And he explained how that person that he bumped into was in the exact same circumstance. Exact same. The whole condition was a mouthful. I must be honest, I don't remember the condition, but the exact same condition. Exact same circumstance that he had just gone through 7 years before. I say just, that he had gone through 7 years before. And then my friend, he said this. He said, I could see why it all happened. And I was like, man, that's my message. That's my message Sunday, man. I'm like, I wanted to share that. He's like, go ahead, share it. He goes, that's my message. I could see why it happened. It was so that I could be there for him then and there. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. Because right now, I'm like blind Bart. I don't see it. I don't see it, Lord. I don't know how I could ever see it. This predicament that I'm in, I don't know how anything good could ever come about it. How your power could be made perfect in weakness. But I want to see it. How your works will be on display for all to see. But I want to see it. And when I'm finally able to see, oh, it might not be tomorrow. It might not be next week. It might not be next month or next year. It might take some time. And ultimately, time might be on your side because you might need some time to really work through what Jesus has done in your life. It might take some time. It might take 7 years. But there will be a day when the predicament feels different. Oh, it'll feel different. That there's so much hope. What beautiful hope we have for that day that the predicament feels different because it feels so worthless now. But there'll be a day where I'll see it as something that was valuable. It feels so stressful and so burdensome now. I'm so anxious now. But one day I'll cry out in thanks and in praise and in joy. It'll feel like purpose one day. And ultimately, it's going to change me. It's going to change me because through the process, I'm going to grow. It's called maturity. And that leads me to the final thing this morning, is when I'm able to see the next problem will be different. The problem, the predicament that I'm in now, it only has one absolute, only one thing for certain, is it won't be my last. It won't be my last. So the greatest result of asking Jesus to see won't necessarily be how I look at it or feel about it right now. It's how I'm going to look at it or feel about it the next time. Because when Jesus opens our eyes, the next problem, it might be worse. But it'll also be different. Because I'll be looking and I'll see that problem from experience. I'm going to see it from experience. I'll be like, I've been through this before. And he didn't leave me then. I know he's not going to leave me now. I'll see it from a standpoint of maturity. And not just because I'm older, but because I'm wiser and I'm more seasoned. Oh, I've been through this before. And I grew so much the last time I went through this. I wonder how much I'm going to grow this time. Oh, there's a standpoint of maturity for you. Oh, I'll see it from the standpoint of expectation. It was so amazing to see how Jesus intervened in my life the last time. Oh, and of course, I'm not crazy. I don't want to be going through this. I don't want to be going through this now. But I know that Jesus, he's going to intervene again. Oh, he's going to intervene again. I'm going to see the problem differently. And it's just not going to be how I look at what I go through. Ultimately, God, he's going to redefine what I call a problem. That's what he's going to do. He's going to totally redefine up here what I look at as a problem, because he's going to allow me to see what it is that he sees as the problem. That's what he's going to do. He's going to allow me to be troubled by what troubles him. And it's not necessarily the predicament that's not going to weigh heavy on me. I mean, it's going to weigh heavy on me. It does. I'm not going to be ignorant to it. But he changes my heart to care more about what weighs heavy on his heart. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. I want to see what you see and how you see it. I want to be burdened by what burdens you. I want to be grieved by what you grieve. And then I want to be filled with joy by what fills you with joy. Oh, the next problem will be different, because how I define problem will be different. I see the problem with sin, whether it's undealt with sin in my life or the rampant sin that's in our culture, and because I can see, I'm grieved by it. I'll see the lost around me, those that they need Jesus, they need an experience, they need an encounter. And because my eyes can see, I'm burdened by it. And I'm burdened for them. The cry of my heart to see, it's not about seeing the answer. It's not about seeking the answer for what's been plaguing me, or the clear choice in what way I need to go, or needing perfect clarity for this decision I need to make. It's about seeing the perspective of the one who is the answer. Oh, Jesus, I want to see. I want to see my position for what it is. It's your assignment. Oh, Jesus, I want to see my predicament for what it's doing. It's preparing me for future purpose. And Jesus, I want to see the problem as you see it. And I want to be driven to do something about it. Jesus, he can help you see. He can help you see. But we got to open our eyes. We got to open our eyes. When Jesus told blind Bartimaeus to receive your sight, there was a moment where Bartimaeus had to make an active choice to close his eyes for the last time in blindness and then open them in faith. And this morning, if you intend to ask Jesus in these next few minutes to say, Jesus, I want to see, then it's time to walk on a road. And it's time to walk with the intent that I'm going to do something about this. Because your eyes may be opened this morning to what's ugly in your life. And we loved God to open up our eyes to see what is good about that and what he's doing in that, to help us move forward in that and to have victory in that. But there might be some good things in your life, some things that you like in your life, some things that you count as worthwhile in your life. And he might open your eyes and he might point to some ugliness in those things that you thought were good. We walk in faith. And we walk in trust. And no matter what it is he shows us, we're going to see it. We're going to act on it. Would you close your eyes with me this morning? Out of respect for everyone here, I want to ask a question today for those of you that maybe have never surrendered your life to Jesus. Maybe you've heard of Jesus, but you've never seen Jesus for who he truly is. The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Son of God. And this morning you need to make Jesus the Lord of your life. You need to give him control of your life. You need to allow him to have the rule and the reign of your life. Life is better with Jesus, I promise you. It's worthwhile living with Jesus. Oh, Brother Chris, he was talking at the beginning of their practice about how the things that he's gone through, he would hate to have gone through it without Jesus. And let me tell you this morning, there are some things some of you are going through today, and you're going through it without Jesus. And it's time to surrender to Jesus. It might not make everything better, but it'll make it easier to walk through. And so this morning, if you need to surrender your life to Jesus, you need him to be Lord of your life, and you've never done that before, I'm going to ask you to lift your hand in this place. I want to ask you to lift your hand in this place. I believe this morning you are all following Jesus, and he is Lord of your life. But maybe you're in a place today, maybe you're in a predicament this morning, and you're like old blind Bart, and you're unable to see in this season. And you need to see today. And you need him to open your eyes to the plan he has, to the purpose he has, and to the heart behind it all. If you're bold enough and brave enough to ask him to open your eyes today, would you lift your hand in this place? Oh, Jesus, open our eyes today. Let's stand together this morning. Let's stand together this morning. Look to Jesus today. Look for Jesus today. He's what you need. Forget about what it is you think the answer is, what your bulleted list of all that needs to happen, A, B, C, D, E, for it to finally come to pass. Just look for Jesus today. Don't try to reason with him about what it is you need and why you need it. Just look for Jesus today. Oh, Jesus, we want to see. Oh, Jesus, we want to see. Oh, Jesus, open our eyes to the place that we're in. Open our eyes in this predicament. And Lord, help us to see as you see today. Let me pray for you this morning. Jesus, I pray for your people today. Those that are bold and they're proclaiming today, oh, Jesus, I want to see. Lord, I pray, Lord, that you would open their eyes today. And Lord, that they would see clearly. Lord, it would be so clear right now. Lord, that your stature and your prominence in their life would be evident. Lord, allow them to see you today. Lord, let us see you today. Lord, we love you and we worship you this morning. In Jesus' name.